So you want to become an advanced scripter in Roblox? Well, you've come to the right place. In this series, we're going to be going over some advanced scripting topics to level up your scripting game from beginner to advanced. This obviously isn't going to cover everything that you could learn, but it's going to give you a good overview of some advanced topics. If you haven't watched my beginner scripting series, make sure to go ahead and watch that first. I'll leave that linked in the description. But now, let's go ahead and get into episode 1, talking all about user input service. So, user input service is one of the most helpful services in our entire game, right? Maybe you want to have something happen when a player presses the key Q, or maybe you want something to happen when a player presses space and jumps, right? That's what we can do with user input service. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you how this works. And you can put, this is all going to be done in a local script. So I would go ahead and insert a local script into starter player scripts. Okay. And we're going to call this user input service. Alright. So how do we get user input service is the first thing. The way that we do that is we call game::get service. So I'm going to show you how that works. We can say local user input service. And it's interesting, services are usually stored in variables, almost always like this. So we have a variable called user input service. Remember from the beginner scripting series, that is basically a container, a box that stores information. So we can say game, right? So the Roblox game, get service. And this is a function that will give us a specific built-in Roblox service. One of these services is called user input service. So now, this variable, user input service, it's storing this information right here, which is just a built-in service from Roblox. It gives us user inputs and things like that. So let me just go ahead and show you how this works. We have a variable that is storing user input service. So now we can say user input service.input began. Okay, this is an event, connect function key. So go ahead and type this out, and I'm going to go ahead and explain what this means. This is calling our variable, right? So we're saying user input service, and then we're saying .input began. So whenever a player, or our local player, right, has any kind of input, right? That would be touching a key, that would be pushing space, that could be clicking the arrow keys, right? It could be any kind of input that comes from the player, so a keyboard or a mouse or anything like that. So what we can do is we can say print key.keycode. So key.keycode is basically, it's just going to tell us what key they pressed. So if a player pressed the key T on their keyboard, it would print T. That's what key.keycode is. And we have key because that's a built-in parameter. Remember that from our beginner scripting series? Roblox automatically gives us whatever key was pressed, or whatever input was given, right? So whenever we have an input begin from a player, like they press a key on the keyboard, Roblox automatically gives us what that key was. And if we want to see what key that was, well, we just say key.keycode. So we can print key.keycode to see what kind of key they pressed. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And we're going to jump into the game. And I'm going to go ahead and press E. As you can see, it says enum.keycode.e. And then we can say R, T, Y. And then we can click also, and you'll see enum.keycode.unknown. So I'm going to go ahead and back up a little bit. Now let's just go ahead and get rid of the .keycode. Let's just go ahead and print key. Okay? And I'll show you in a minute why we want to use key code most of the time. Let's go ahead and press R, T, G, H, J, K, L, press, clicking, jumping, arrows. They're all input objects, right? So every time we're getting input object, that's because it's just saying, well, we got an input. The player pressed something, but they're not giving us any information, right? It's just saying, well, the player clicked something. So if we want to know what key they pressed, we write .keycode. Okay? So if you sometimes forget what that is, you can just scroll down, and here it is right here, keycode. And yep, there it is. So key.keycode. Now let's see how we can go ahead and use this. So let's go ahead and get rid of that print. And let's say whenever the player presses Q, we want to do something. So we can say if key.keycode, remember that, let's scroll up a little bit. Oh wait, it got deleted. Remember it printed enum.keycode.e or whatever. So we can say if key.keycode equals enum.keycode, and I'll explain this in a minute, .q, then print the player pressed q. All right. So enum is pretty complicated, but basically it's just a way for us to check values. So enum has so many different things. If you type enum and scroll through this, there are so many different things that enum holds. Touch movement mode, text filter context, debugger end reason, avatar asset type. So there's really no way to memorize all the enums, but one of the most helpful enums is enum.keycode. That runs, or that is just saying, okay, we got an input type of a key code, right? So we can say enum.keycode.q. That's the same thing as key.keycode if the player pressed q. So enum.keycode is basically just a way for Roblox to check what was given. If you remember, we printed key, and let's just go ahead and do that again. I'm going to just print key.keycode. So let me just go ahead and hit play. If we print key.keycode, you can see we have enum.keycode.t, and that's because I pressed T. So Roblox automatically, when we get the key from this input began, this built-in parameter is given to us as an enum, right? Enum, you can look down in the output, enum.keycode.t. That is what Roblox gives us, so we're just matching that up. We're saying if the keycode, right, that printed out as enum.keycode.t, so we're going to match that up if it equals enum.keycode.q. So this right here can be any key you want it to be. It could be tab, it could be T, it could be space, it could be backspace, or backslash, whatever you want, but I'm going to stick with Q. So whenever Q is pressed, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that print now. So whenever we get the key code enum.keycode.q, we're going to print the player pressed Q. Let's go ahead and hit play. And I'm going to go ahead and press some other keys. And as you can see, it's not printing anything, but if I press Q, the player pressed Q. So this is going to be super helpful if you ever want to do something, like maybe you want it to, maybe you want your game to, I don't know, throw a ball whenever the player presses P. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could if you want to. But let's just go ahead and just make this a little more exciting. Let's go ahead and spawn a part every time the player presses Q. So we can say local part equals instance.new. Part, and then we can say part.color equals brickcolor.random, and next part.parent equals workspace. We went over all this in the beginner scripting series, but basically we're creating a brand new part, we're changing the color to a random color, and we're going to put it in the workspace. So let's go ahead and hit play. And whenever we press Q, I think it's under the, oh, hold on, unable to assign property color. Oh, whoops, that's on me. So I wrote part.color, not part.brickcolor. Part.brickcolor equals brickcolor.random. Now let's try it. And whenever we press Q, we should have a new part spawn. There we go. And we're getting tons of randomly colored parts whenever we press Q. And I could just spam this Q button and we have a ton of parts now. And there we go. So that is user input service in a nutshell. There is more you can do with that for sure, but that is just key codes, and that's all we're going to cover in this video. If you would like to see more videos like this for the advanced series, make sure to subscribe. I'll be doing more of these soon. The plan is to have a 14-part series, just like the beginner scripting series, where we will go over a ton of different advanced concepts. So I hope you're excited for this series. I know I am. It's been a long time coming. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.